Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Are you a survivor of abuse or other trauma? Are you tired of feeling stuck, silent, and stressed all the time? This is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with more inner peace and joy. Are you ready to eliminate suffering from your life and transform from a survivor to thriver? Then congratulations, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Hey, welcome. This is your happiness expert and host, Samia Bano, on the Survivor to Thriver show. So excited to have you with me today because I'm going to share with you a very, very important and critical life lesson that I learned. Actually, it's sort of a continuation from our last episode. We had started talking about this concept of how it can be really, really helpful for us to be like water in our life. In that when we come across hurdles and challenges, rather than becoming focused on those hurdles and those challenges, what if we were like water and we just figured out ways to flow around and flow over or flow under those hurdles and obstacles and just kind of bypass them? So that instead of all our time and energy and focus being on the problem, we're able to shift it to the solution, right? And moving forward, keep moving forward. So I want to kind of put this idea back in the context of what I was experiencing in my life. And the last point in the story that I was sharing with you, I was telling you about how I had gone to see Elizabeth, who was the counselor, the psychologist that I got an appointment with at the Psychological Services Center at my campus on college. And she was the very first person that I went and I broke through the silence and I shared with her that I was a survivor of child sexual abuse, and I shared with her some of the struggles that I was dealing with, and I allowed her to be a supportive presence and a guiding presence in my life. And it was a moment of huge breakthrough and a moment of huge healing, right? To the point where as I left that very first session that I had with Elizabeth, I felt like I was walking on air, floating on air. I was literally skipping out of the Psychological Services Center with this huge smile on my face that I could not contain. It was awesome. But that high, couldn't last forever. And eventually, I started to get back to a more normal state, and now having had that breakthrough experience, no doubt that there was a very important shift that had happened for me. And you can never quite go back to being who you were before you had the breakthrough once you have had your breakthrough. But at the same time, just because you have had a breakthrough and healed something in your experience, in your being, that was injured and hurt, from the trauma that you experienced, that I experienced, does not mean that I was 100% healed. That 100% of the challenges and the obstacles that I faced, the fear and the doubts and so forth that I had been struggling with, were eliminated. No, right? Things had moved forward for the better. It wasn't 100%. The situation wasn't 100% healed, resolved. The wound, the trauma wasn't 100% healed and resolved, right? And hey, that is a very, it wasn't. This is a very natural thing that happens with survivors of abuse and other trauma, because when we experience the abuse or the trauma, whatever other kind of trauma you may have, it impacts us at so many different levels, in so many different ways, that the healing then necessarily is also a process. And it's a multi-layer, multi-level process, right? So it's like peeling, you peel away one layer of the wound at a time. You heal one part of the wound at a time, but it can take, multiple breakthroughs, multiple healings to be able to get to a point of where you're feeling like, okay, now I've recovered from the wound, and for me, I'm not just about recovery. I'm about growth, but hey, okay, let's not jump the story ahead too much, okay? I'm all about thriving. This is a story of going from being a survivor to thriver. It's not from surviving to recovery, okay? So you know where we are headed, right? We're headed towards going beyond recovery, but hey, we're not quite there yet. We're still working our way towards recovery right now. Okay, so I'd broken through by this time. I had several major breakthroughs, right? Number one breakthrough was when I, had that sense of connection with my religion and spirituality. Like, I found that I identified it, religion and spirituality, as a way for me to be able to learn what I needed to learn in order to help myself heal and move forward. And then I had another major breakthrough when I learned about child sexual abuse. And I gained even more specific direction on how I could move forward and understand what had happened to me, and what an even more specific field of study, psychology, that could help me to even better understand and learn what I needed to learn to help myself move forward. And then I had another major breakthrough, a big shift that occurred in my life after 9/11. And I was forced to come out of my shell and start using my voice and start talking and sharing with people about who I was and why I was the way I was and all those kinds of things. And that led me to that point of breakthrough where I was able to finally break the silence around my being a survivor of child sexual abuse. But you know what? This silence that I broke wasn't like in a public context. It wasn't like I went out in the world and announced it to everyone that I was a survivor. It was something that I had done in a very safe, in a very private, in a very confidential context. And in fact, if I had not been assured of that safe, private, confidential context, I would not have been able to break through that silence, right? I needed that safe, confidential, private context to feel safe enough to be able to take that step and break through. So one of the biggest hurdles that was still there in my way was that now I told one person, but I still very much had this fear of my family finding out. What would happen if my family finds out? Not only that I had been sexually abused as a child, but that it was somebody in our family who had sexually abused me. How would that impact all of my family relationships? And of course, the fear was that it would impact my family relationships in all kind of very negative, bad ways. And my family for me has been one of the very few constants in my life that has grounded me, that has supported me. I started my life in India living in a joint family system. When I was living in Pakistan, once again, I was in a joint family system. So I've grown up having a huge value for family and a huge value for doing what is needed to preserve our family and stay closely connected, because the family is such a strong support system and such a vital support system. That's how it was for me, and that is how it was for all the members of my family. And you can't have that kind of structure stay intact without trust between family members, without love between family members, without respect between family members. And I was afraid that all of that might collapse with this revelation that one of our family members had broken that trust, broken the boundaries, the love, the respect, that we must have for each other, and sexually abused me as a child. So, I could very easily have become focused on this fear, on this hurdle, this challenge, this that, oh my gosh, I still need to keep this a secret. I still can't go out and just openly share about what I'm experiencing and feeling and struggling with in the context of working on my healing process, So could have potentially really stalled me or slowed me down. But the good news was that because for the last so many years, I had become so focused on learning everything that I could learn about how to help myself heal and how to help myself live with inner peace. I had actually allowed myself, thanks to that learning, to step out of the darkness that had been consuming the first so many years, of my life in the aftermath of my surviving the sexual abuse, and into the light of knowledge and healing information. Right? So I was, because of that, able to avoid some of the most critical or major mistakes that oftentimes survivors find themselves falling into, right? When they're lacking the knowledge and lacking the information that I was lucky enough to be able to achieve in my life. So, and one of those most important lessons that I had learned was this concept of, okay, let's just flow around. No, we're not going to focus on the problem. If it's something that we can't deal with, if we feel like this is too much right now, like right now I can't deal with telling my family, I can't deal with worrying about what would happen if I told my family, I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm going to find a way around it. I'm going to identify something else that I can focus on, something else that will allow me to peel away at a different layer of the hurt and the struggle that I was still going through, and just keep moving on. So let's stop this episode right here for today, because I see the time. We're over almost 16 minutes now. So we'll pick up right here in tomorrow's episode. And in the meanwhile, remember to connect with me. I love to hear from you. Go to academyofthriving.com, and from our contact us page, you can get all the information you need for how you can connect with me. And in the meantime, I wish you lots of peace and joy.